Cowardice asks, the question, is it safe? Expediency asks, the question, is it politic? Vanity asks, the question, is it popular? But conscience asks, the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard.
Fighting for humanity and against globalism, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Good evening, everybody. It is the start of a beautiful new Saturday the 14th, not Friday the 13th, because that was bad and it sucked. It's probably sucked for everybody. It's the Freedom Link and KGRADB.com, a wonderful place to go and get not just the Freedom Link, but a lot of other things too. A lot of great content. And we're here tonight because we want to talk about how to deal with the pain of government intervention. Something that I have and Scotty have, and before John King, and countless others under the banner of the Freedom Link for now 17 years. That's how long the Freedom Link has been around. So, and by the way, one of the things that is interesting about just the Freedom Link, that's all it's about. It has absolutely nothing to do with money. Money's never even entered the conversation with the Freedom Link because money is what shuts people down. Unfortunately, it biases people in ways that, whether acknowledged or not, insert a bias. So, the nice thing about this idea is to remove that bias and to be able to speak freely and understand what truly is going on. So we're going to try to understand tonight what's going on, and I'm going to use myself as an example of what's been going on, and more importantly, why I had to go silent for a while. Because at the time things started to go on the downward slide for me, it was kind of at that point where most people that do this are at that pinnacle of making change or really, really, really gaining momentum. And then all of a sudden the wind's taken out of your sails. Now, a lot of people can say, well, it's a government conspiracy or everybody's being watched. Now, it's true. I will tell you that. Everything is being captured. Everything tonight that we're going to talk about, Scotty, right off to Buffdale, Utah, in one way or another, and stored there for either current use or future use. I mean, you know about that kind of stuff, right? We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah. It's you know, you're right. It seems like just seems like everybody who has been involved in kind of what we do, right? Uh, whatever you want to call this, uh, what being a truther or whatever label you want to put on
It's just a label.
the things we do. I just say exposing the truth or trying to get to the find the truth.
And by the
or
way,
whatever.
let me say this. What Scotty is saying is absolutely central to what the Freedom Link idea is, which is there is no labels, right? There's
Right.
no titles of nobility, as Jefferson was so adamant about when they wrote the Constitution, that they insert that no titles of nobility at all, that we weren't even going there, right? So that was central to the tenets or the foundation of what not just the United States, but at that time, you had France that was in revolution. And it was spreading at a very rapid pace. And that's kind of where we're at now, where you have this idea, this need to break away from the control structure, or at that time, that strong central government, that strong federal presence. Now it's ever more present, where government goes in and helps. Wherever you get help, you get control. And the more government helps, the more control they have. Just remember that. And some people feel better about that. Some people don't. I think the problem is more people are starting to understand and see it in real time, because nothing right now is really out of play, if you will. 20 years ago, 17 years ago, even when we started this, the spread of social media was just starting. It was just like there were still flip phones, It was like,
Right.
what do you say, Scotty? Those StarTacs, Motorola StarTacs. That it was the thing, man, when we started. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, and
People
just that Freedom Links
people
is
were
old as
still
our marriage.
rocking their
Absolutely.
yeah. People were still rocking their indestructible Nokias, and
Dude, I'm telling you. So we were just in the infancy of that kind of thing where, people snapped a picture. It wasn't even video at that time because data was expensive. And then it grew and grew and grew to now where it's at today. And I think that's why the elite are very concerned. They're extremely concerned about what's going on. But they have also understood, a la George Soros, right? And his initiatives to go after and start to control your local governments, your state governments, through different ways and means. One of them being guns, right? We've seen that, and how the gun debate has heated up. Also, you also have the increase, shall we say, in incidents related to people that have basically lost their mind. Let's just remember that a firearm is akin to a hammer, is akin to a, let's say, a pneumatic nail gun. People in carpentry, you know what I'm talking about. It's a tool. It's a tool and it has uses. So when these happen and these incidents happen, these tools are used, but by no means should that affect somebody else's right to use that tool.
Right.
right? Kind of simple. We're not going to outlaw hammers. But I'll bet you that there's been a lot of damage or
Yes.
attack from hammers,
Yeah,
right?
how many times have hammers been utilized in horrific you know
That's
assaults
right.
and whatnot? You don't ban the tool.
Yeah. I just wanted to reach out to William Hale here. Where's Kev? Yeah. Sorry, buddy. But just a little over a year ago, Kev passed away. And we still kind of persevere and we press on, but miss him. Yeah, very much.
Yep.
So let's talk about what's happened. What's happened with me in relation to what we're talking about tonight. And it kind of goes back to the year 2019. I could go back even farther, but that's when things for me went off a cliff. And that's when the government really, I got to understand what a lot of Americans suffer through for whatever reason when the Department of Children and Families, CPS for some, DCF for others, get involved in your life. And that, my friends, is and can be extremely stressful. And we've seen countless videos of people that have stood their ground and said, by golly, no, you can't get in here. You can't get in there. You can't this and that and everything else. And hey, you know what? They do what they do. And I have, let me say this. I learned a lot prior to having to deal with them that I had rights, that we had rights. And we certainly exercised them to every extent that we could. But as you know, lawyers are always needed. And funny enough, what kicked it all off, there was an incident. Now, my oldest son was someone that I can say without a shadow of a doubt was somebody that it was going to be and is and will be very successful in his life. But there are times when things happen that rifts emerge. Let's just say that. And family situations become very hard to maintain. So there was a point in time where a betrayal occurred, as best as I can say. And CPS gets involved, DCF gets involved. And out of that, yeah, that's right. At the time, it was he was just emerging from adolescence into adulthood. But for 3 years, we endured some pretty harsh conditions due to their interventions. We, however, were blessed with having what we considered, my wife and I, a guardian angel. And that was our caseworker. And I know a lot of people go into this stuff with horror stories and everything else. But I will say this. We had somebody that learned about how things really were, Scotty, with the world, how it related to um, basically what we talk about week to week. She actually was somebody that was interested in the things that we talk about. Why? Because we don't talk about anything that's crazy. We just speak the truth. That's it. As we see
Right.
it, we give it, you know, we give it our best. However, I will say this: I have never in my life, in all of my research, seen a case where CPS gets involved or DCF and they get or are documenting a story in which, oh, it's a success story. It's like, boom, uh, boy, did they make my life better. No, it's not like that. Every time they get involved, it's a living hell. Only this time, we experienced something where it was a living hell, but it was actually a living hell balanced with an awakening for somebody else. And at the end of everything, we had somebody almost akin to that. And for people that are knowledgeable in the Bible, those recording angels that just record everything. They're just there to see and observe and to basically, they're writing your record, right? And she objectively recorded everything for us. For 3 years, she recorded everything we did. And we had no problem with it because by that time, we had kind of gained that trust. And there was a big family feud going on, which is what sparked the whole thing off in the first place. And for everybody out there that goes down these roads, these rabbit holes, if you will, I'm sure most of you out there know how that makes you a black sheep in many ways. Many ways.
Right.
Well, right? In our case, it was just a way for my wife's abusive parents, who have been so for a very long time, and even to this day, right? How they are able to use my oldest kids to use this platform and also my wife's disability against her. And they tried, but yeah, that's right. But and here we are, we're at the tail end of it, which is why I'm talking about it now, but it's been since October 2019. We have been through just some of the most unbelievable, horrific things that any family would have to endure, you know, and we're just um, we're tired, and that's the biggest thing right now that is um, just keeping us going is the fact that yeah, we're almost at the end of it, but man, we are tired, dude. So I have like this hearing a week from Tuesday. It's my last. So from the DCF standpoint, we passed that test. Hot, skippity doo dah. We finally made it. 3 years. However, in all of this stuff, the betrayal occurred. And the betrayal was we had some disagreements. And I had left all of my firearms down south prior to moving up north, Scotty. Because you know why? We know what happens when you go north. Bad things when you have guns. Now,
Right.
everybody knows how I feel about that stuff. If you have them, first of all, you can have whatever you want. That's my thing. It's in the Constitution. It is an absolute necessity for many, especially now more than ever with crime going rampant. And especially in rural areas, which is where I was for many years. You know, I lived in a very rural North Carolina, Gates County, where the response time for first responders was 45 minutes. 45 minutes. So think about that. That's an eternity. Which required a couple of things. It required that you be able to hold out for 45 minutes should you need to. And that didn't mean just for security purposes. We didn't have fire hydrants. We didn't have any way to respond to that, So I had to set up a pump for my off of my well so that we had a way to fight a fire in the event of a fire. We had a backup generator. Why? Because our power went out no matter how, 20 times a year. And I mean, it wasn't anything like crazy. I had to go to like Harbor Freight and kind of wire it in, but I did. And those were necessities then. So then I move up north because it was time to get out of government. I couldn't do it after doing what I did, blowing the whistle, blah, blah, blah. It was time to go, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah. And I chose to leave. And so I go up north and I get into manufacturing, which is really a passion of mine, believe it or not. I love it. Still doing it today. And I love every minute of it. However, after I get here and I'm established, my son decides, well, not decides, he has no choice. He has to come up north. And it's okay. Dad says, hey, go ahead and do it. Now, Angela, right? She says, what? No, don't do it. Because she says, hey, my gut says. And now let me say this. First and foremost to everybody out there that has a female in their life, especially, however, males, you have it too. There's something called a gut. And that gut, if it tells you, no, don't do it. Right? Now, I have no, at the time, I certainly did not have a gut feeling. Yeah, or intuition, yeah, thank you very much. And Scotty, I tell you what, I don't know. Do you have those gut feelings? Let me ask you something. Do you feel that feeling, that gut feeling? Because before this happened, I didn't. Now, after this event, I did. That's the freaking crazy thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned over the years to definitely listen to that gut feeling or that intuition, if you will. It's the same feeling you get when somebody walks in a room and you can immediately pick up the vibe of, hey, this person is up to no good or something like that, right? You immediately got to listen to that. And I think we all make the mistake of when we're younger or whatever of not listening to that gut feeling
when you're younger. Dude, I was like,
well, yeah, I
mean, it's like it's
right,
your boy. You don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess even to this day, sometimes we make those mistakes, but
I guess so.
I've come to learn that is, that's your like sixth sense. That's.
Can I be honest with you too? I think that there is a relationship to sensitivity when people are disabled in one way, shape, or form. And I say that because there is a way for you to be able to focus more on it. And I'll give you the example. I am at most times very, very busy because we're a family, right? However, what's that? I know you've been intuitive. Oh, I know. I've always been intuitive. I get it. Yes, she's been intuitive. However, it gets sharpened in a certain sort of way because your focus is able to go there more. Your brain is able to devote more power. Your gut is able to promote more power to it. Whereas most of those that are out working or something, there's that much more focus being distributed. Do
I
you
think it's the
understand what I'm
same.
saying?
I think you can equate it to, like, say, a blind person, right? They lose a certain sense. Well, then the other senses become heightened, right? You know,
Very much so.
the
Exactly.
hearing, the touch, everything becomes more hypersensitive. And I
Right.
think when you have a disability or whatever, other senses and whatnot become heightened. And I
Yeah.
think that intuition and that gut feeling sort of thing is one of the things that becomes heightened because I think this is a natural human trait that we've developed, you know, just as a species, where say you're disabled or you're not able to do something, then your body goes into ways of being able to defend itself because you're in a more vulnerable state, right? So it becomes more hyper aware of the
Right.
things that are going on around you. So yeah, definitely something to that.
Now in her case, imagine this. Imagine you're in a violent family relationship.
Right.
Imagine that you're a child growing up in an abusive environment. And that environment is ever present from the time that you're born up until the time that you're 18, up until even after that, up until the time of present day, because they can't stop causing trouble. They can't stop trying to exert their control over their daughter, even to this day, even to this day. And that's a problem. Now, see,
Right.
we're in the end stages of that, our family. And a lot of this stems from the fact that we chose from a very early part of our relationship when our family was young to not raise our kids the way that the public school system, that society, that anybody wanted to raise them. We wanted to raise them in a way that not only preserved their innocence, but also cultivated their natural abilities. That was kind of the premise or the foundation of the way that we did that. Now, the way that you could describe it would be probably the closest thing would be called unschooling. That was what we were trying to achieve. To break our way out of this three probably generation habit of thinking that this is the norm. And there is no norm. That's the one thing that people have to understand. There's no norm. I mean, if you look historically, there's no norm here. We're kind of feeling our way through. I can tell you this, that the structure that's there now has failed us miserably. You can see it in the numbers. Ever since the federal government got involved in education, it's been horrific. And the numbers speak for themselves. No knock to any teachers out there, by the way. You're doing the best job you can. However,
And what I'll also say is that you guys chose to what they call break the cycle, right?
right,
You're breaking the cycle
that's right.
of of generational uh, abuse or whatever was going on her side of the family.
That's
You
right.
break the cycle, and that causes a lot of problems with people who want that cycle to continue.
That's right.
And so
Well,
yeah,
of course they do.
right,
Habit is a. Let me tell you something. Humans hate change on the whole. It does. If you think
right.
about it, once you kind of get into a groove, you kind of don't want it to stop. It's the way it is. I get it. However, we have to stop this, and there's a host of reasons why we feel this way. Because it affects us in such an unbelievable way, and because it affects many people, as we come to find out, in an unbelievable way. So, as this has gone on, uh, my wife, who was permanently injured when she gave birth to my youngest daughter, um, and was injured in such a fashion that there's no cure. Now, imagine that. Imagine being in agony. Oh, Scotty, I know how you. Yeah, you're there too. That's right. Oh yeah. Now, by the way, this is a lot more widespread, I come to find, than um, even I was aware of. My wife was over in the hospital for over a month. We had every like student, intern, uh, resident there poking and prodding her because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, why she was in so much pain, why her calcium had spiked beyond like any number they've ever seen. It was unbelievable. Now, after a month, she had to check herself out because it was like, guys, 30 days. I have a family. I haven't even seen my daughter yet, for God's sake. This is crazy. I got to go home. So she went home. And funny enough, her calcium, I guess, in some way, shape, or form stabilized. However, her damage to her pelvis was irreversible. So, and she almost, almost bled to death is an understatement. So, for years and years now, because of that damage, she has had to have intervention as far as pain is concerned, because you cannot understand the kind of agony that one suffers when the sacroiliac joints and the hips and the symphysis pubis ligament all don't do their thing. It's like having this pelvis that is totally and completely like just unstable in every way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. Yeah. So an unstable core is terrible. And then the DEA comes in and they start clamping down on every pharmacy, every doctor, everything, to the point where now my wife has to go and I have to take her. By the way, it's excruciating for her just to do this, to get in the car, and I have to drive her 600 miles every 3 months to the only doctor in Virginia that, by the way, we have stayed with since her injury. That and the reason why we do that is because you can't doctor shop. That's terrible. You can't do that. God forbid. Not to mention, you can't, because as you go further north, the restrictive nature of palliative care and pain management is worse and worse and worse. So we stay with the doc down there.
Boy, it seems like no matter what it is, the farther north you go, the more restrictive it becomes.
It's
whether
terrible.
It be
So get
guns,
this.
whether it be
Get this.
yeah.
Wait, there's more. So we go down there to Virginia, which, by the way, the doc that we go to now is the only doctor in the state of Virginia that offers pain management. That's the only one now. You're talking about universities of health like Eastern Virginia Medical School, EVMS, shut down by the DEA. Why? Who knows? They have their reasons, right? Because they'll make it up as they go. And they call people like my wife collateral damage to this as the atmosphere gets worse and worse, and pharmacists are under more and more pressure, and doctors are under more and more pressure. It's unbelievable. So we this year are going to kind of start pushing back a little bit. I have to get through this last legal hurdle with the 2019 drama brought on by my son and my in-laws that are, let's just say, crooked at a very, very politically correct way of saying it. So I have to get through that. Then it's going to be smash them. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because, again, Scotty, I found out that people like you and my wife are part of millions of people that have suffered at the hands of the DEA, of their heavy-handed regulatory structure, because they'd rather go after you guys than the people bringing the fentanyl over the border, because they'd rather go after you guys than the cartels down in South America or whatever. And I don't even give a, you know what, that none of that should matter. That stuff should be regulated and legal, quite frankly. And if you did that, guess what? All our problems are solved. Now the DEA can be like teachers and maybe like phys ed. What do you think? We could be like a fit society again. Like, think about that. Like, this would be awesome. Right, Scotty?
You wouldn't have a problem with the cartels, right? Because there would be no incentive for the cartels to exist.
That's right.
You know?
Now, okay, so there's this other example, right? Because we've seen like legalization. Now, when I say legalization, I don't say legalization. I mean decriminalization. You don't want legalization in many ways, because legalization often comes with a lot of restrictions.
Regulation.
And regulation. Right? So in Oregon, you have, and even California, you have an issue now with marijuana that is not grown with a license or exceeds the personal capacity, and it's depressed the market value quite a bit, almost saturated in a way. And they got a problem on their hands because it's legalized and because there's that regulatory structure. Now, if you just allowed the market to exist, if you think about it, it would regulate itself, because sooner or later, it's going to be the price is the price. Here it is, because you have that. It's almost like a pizza joint, you know? Same thing. So why can't we do that for all of them? Because if you think about it, I would say more people do something to enhance their life in one way or the other. Some people call it performance enhancing drugs. But most people are just using things just to help survive, to help, oh my God, it hurts. You know, they have a pain in their life that they're trying to help out with. Why not give them quality stuff that is manufactured to a standard and just put out there for people to use safely? I don't understand it. The other thing is, Scotty, we're born with opioid receptors. We're born with cannabinoid receptors. And I am all for, the natural use of things. And if it's in its natural state and you're not altering it in any way, how can anybody tell you that you can't use it, especially when it's there? It's a flower. It's a thing, right? How can somebody tell you that something that's grown in the ground can do that? In its natural state, you don't really get that messed up. It's just the way it is. You're using it in the way that it comes out of the ground. I don't get it.
Didn't it say in the Bible that God put all the plants and animals on the planet for us to use?
That's a tough one. Yeah. You know what's also funny is God also gave us dominion over all the animals of the earth, all of them, right? He put us above the animals. So then why is the Controlled Substances Act of the federal government, but also of most of the state governments, written in such a fashion that puts us on equal ground with animals? How does that happen? How does that happen? And it's funny, if you don't know your rights, then it happens and they can do this. And it's little minute changes like that allow that to occur. Boiling frogs, they call it, Scotty.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's wild, man. And look, what are the what is it, the worst 9 words you want to hear? I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Oh my God. Now, I'll tell you what, I was pretty pissed off at the beginning of it. I was. And at least on the DCF side of things. But here's the other cracker thing that happened, right? This is the worst. When my son came up, he brought L Bang Bangs with him that were not supposed to be brought up here, that I intentionally left down south, knowing that they were illegal. So I left them down there. And I left them down there because my son was staying behind and they were his. I didn't buy them for me. See, when I came up north, I knew I didn't really need them because the first responder response time went from 45 minutes down to 45 seconds because I literally live within spitting distance of the police department. So now all of a sudden the situation changes. So I say, oh, well, I'm just going to leave them down there. Little did I know that he brought them up. Herein lies the problem. So, knowing he even knew that he couldn't have them here, so he actually rented a storage unit in Connecticut to put him in. Right? And so he went and put him in, and that was simply because I told him once he got up here and I saw him for the first time, I was like, dude, you can't have these here. You're going to have to put them down in Connecticut. At least there you can have them, and then they're legal to store. We'll put it that way, right? So shouldn't have ever brought him in the first place, but he did.
Right.
And then falling out occurs, and and this was due to in-law intervention. Little did we know. And then we knew, but by then it was too late. Yeah, because and all because my poor wife just wanted to cut her abusers out of her life. So then they start to infiltrate into our family and go around us to our kids, who by then are old enough to be able to do that. And remember, wife disabled, me working ass off. So very, very hard to do that, raise family and everything else. So mind you, that's going on too. And so they orchestrate a plan. They orchestrate a plan to have us swatted. Now, people that don't know what swatting is, that's when you call the police on somebody and say that somebody's doing something very bad that requires that type of attention at that place at that time. In this case, when I kicked my son and soon-to-be daughter-in-law out of my house, they did not bring their firearms with them when they left. They brought everything. No, it doesn't matter. They left the things behind. They left firearms behind in my basement when I didn't know it. And then a month later, they called the cops and said that my disabled wife, who's bedridden, who's never, ever fired a gun in her life, all of a sudden, she's holding my kids at gunpoint and going to do horrible things to them.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. So now I come home from work, by the way, and I say, what's going on? And yeah, right. She couldn't even hardly move. I mean, this is crazy. So they said, well, your wife's holding everybody at gunpoint, whatever. There's guns in the house. I said, no, man, no way. So we go and look, and we find them in the basement. And by the way, we had to call my son to find out where they were because I didn't know. So even the cop had to call and ask, right? And I said, dude, these things aren't supposed to be here. Not supposed to be here. Take them. I don't want them. Just take them. I mean, they're things. Material things can be replaced at any time, folks. Don't ever get attached to that kind of stuff. Take them. All right, we'll take them. Basically surrendered them, right? Captain of the police force shows up. It's a small town. I say, look, man, I'm a vet. Those are my son's guns. Brought them. Didn't want them in my house. Somehow this misunderstanding occurred. Look, they're not supposed to be here. I'm surrendering them to you. Okay, man, no problem. We'll take them. It's done. All right, they go away. They take everything. 3 months later, I get a freaking subpoena on charges relating to these guns, under mass law. That was 2019. And now I have this last court appearance where they want a guilty plea, but I've been a good boy and, I've done everything and even taken into something called in the Massachusetts legislature law, the Valor Act. Now, the Valor Act allows for veterans to get not a free pass, but a way to be able to get through a incident without any effect on their permanent record. And I qualified for every incident of that, right? Everything about it. It was all about that. So I didn't have to drag everybody through the muck because I know eventually my son's going to see just what exactly really happened and how he was used as a pawn. We're black sheep. What can I say? We don't want to throw him under the bus. So what do? I go down this route. And now this last court appearance is all about that. And according to my lawyer, he's like, well, they want a guilty or a plea. So I just went through all this. 3 years of GCF. I went through the veterans, the VA, and all the counseling. Months of counseling, by the way, which wasn't bad anyway. God knows I needed it. But you know what? It doesn't matter. The fact is, right. Dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, followed the law. Why is this process so arbitrary? What the hell? And then my lawyer says, well, then he reduced it down to misdemeanors. Oh. And what does that mean? See, because what I'm saying is, how do you do that? First of all, and second of all, why aren't you just letting it go? The law's on our side. Why won't you just let it go? So then it comes down to, well, are we going to go to trial? Well, of course we're going to go to trial. You know what I mean? If that's the way, then that's the way. But I can't see him doing it. I just can't. It's dumb. It's stupid. Ugh. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and at this point, it's just ridiculous. It's at a point to where it's ridiculous, and why would they need to be dragging this out anymore?
Yes.
It's
I got to show this too. This is interesting. And Rihanna, thank you for the comment, because you're a white Republican, most likely. Well, let me say this. I am not. I am a Joe. That's all I am. I don't identify. See, we can get into the whole woke thing, but there's some truth to it. We are white. Yeah. I am in a Democratic state, but I am not a Republican. I am not anything. I'm just Joe. I'm just Joe. Nope, none of that. I'm just Joe. No conservative, no nothing. I'm just Joe. Why? Because when you let any of that come in and that label becomes part of you, you become part of that label and it boxes you in. And that's right. Terrible. That's awful. Ugh. And that's what gets me. Now, that's how I've grown, and I'm able to, like my coworkers, right? they're just always astounded because I always have a story for just about everything. And there's a reason because I've studied all this stuff because I've seen it through a lens where I don't have labels, where I don't depend on that to formulate an opinion, and it's helped me in a lot of regards. Now it's hurt me too, because you're kind of outside of things. You don't have that connection with certain people that you normally would because you just kind of that's not your thing. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, that's right. And Angela's right. Any unscrupulous family could use the system against you. Yeah. Absolutely. Neighbors, you hear Karen come up more and more often, Scotty. Oh, that Karen. God, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah. The system's built for that. Yeah. And to use it again. Yeah.
Right, and look no further than what occurs in totalitarian regimes, right? Look at Soviet Russia or East Germany. When you would have neighbors or family members that have fell out. Oh well, let's just call the Stasi. And tell them so and so is doing something that is against the state or whatever, and next thing you know, they can have their neighbor black bagged and disappeared, just because of a disagreement or out of spite or whatever. It becomes a very powerful tool for people who want
It most certainly does.
maliciously hurt somebody. What better way to do it than to have the state come and do the dirty work, do your dirty work for you?
I have never been called a sovereign citizen of the planet. However, there's a first time for everything, and I like it. But however, I don't do labor, so I can't. But Rihanna, let me tell you something. That is awesome. I kind of don't know what to say about that. Because that in and of itself is terrible too. See, those people, those people, I love it. Those people right there. Now, those people believe that, well, if you put the red ink here and you put this form here and you write this and that and everything else and you send it to the State Department, well, then everything's good. No, that ends up in the circular file. And that's the problem is that, see, those kind of people are more like, you got to have an army bigger than that army that's on the other side before you can start doing that kind of stuff. And that's just never going to happen, you see. Yeah. So while I agree oftentimes with what they talk about, because sometimes those things are quite relevant and should be debated, they'll never see the light of day because all it does is erode that control that is at the heart of everything. I'll be honest with you. I started reading Scotty through a lot of the writings of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson once I watched that HBO series, and I just started watching it again just because it was so good. But I also go back and I read a lot of the letters that they wrote to each other. And a lot of the regrets that they had, a lot of the arguments that they had. And I see a lot of the concerns of Jefferson playing out now, very much so when there is a revolution kind of happening now because of the advancement and the ability to transmit information at such an instantaneous speed, where something in France can happen and everybody in the world knows it instantly.
Right.
That the government's very hard pressed to contain in many cases. So it's really brought about an awakening, much like the French Revolution and other points in history. So I find it interesting that the same playbook is being thrown at it in the 21st century, much like it was in the 18th century when revolution kicked off. So, in hour number 2, we'll talk about that just a little bit more. Plus, we'll also talk about how that control and how these things, these events that we're seeing with the economy, that we're seeing with our quality of life, our cost of living, our ability to survive being eroded, and kind of why that's happening. And you can relate it to something in your life. I can promise you that. Everything we talk about tonight, much like the story I just told you in hour number 1, can be related to what's going on now and how oftentimes there are people that are willing to exploit these mechanisms that have been put into place to help control your life even farther. And this control stuff, these things, oh, it's just getting started, folks. It's just getting started. So hour number 2, right around the corner. Don't forget kgradb.com. Go there today. Get yourself a subscription. Unlock the archives and the magic of all of those hours of programming. Yash. Did I say programming? I did. We'll be right back, folks. Don't go away. Bill, take it from here.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Are you looking to go on a faraway journey that is magical and mysterious, reaping on mystical legends? If so, then Mysterious Adventure Tours is perfect for you. Imagine a voyage to explore ancient mysteries of Ireland, haunted majesties of Scotland, or their chilling Birth of the Vampires in Romania. These small, esoteric getaways are limited and do fill up fast. So, go to mysteriousadventuretours.com and book your trip soon.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Fucking nerds. That's what I'm gonna have. Oh yeah. No.
And we are.
Yeah. Woo!
Hey. What's up, sweet tarts, huh? We are back, everybody. Joe's enjoying snack time. It looks like.
Three stars makes you feel a little so good. Okay, so a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, right? Have you seen how many people are dying lately, dude?
Hmm. Yeah.
Have you been keeping track of that?
Yes, I have.
I don't mean, like, I'm just saying, like, noticing notable people or notable events.
I
There's
think
been an
just
increase.
I think there's just been an increase in general of
Have
people.
you? You've seen it too?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is something I was thinking about the other day, and I'm like, man, what's going on here? Uh, you've got people just killing over. You've got increases in cancer.
Yep.
Um,
Well, look
it
at this
just
too.
seems like.
I'm going to harken this back to. I'm going to harken this back to even peeps like you and my wife and the millions of others that deal with pain. I think what we're seeing is a very large soft kill type of eugenics program
Yes.
worldwide that's going
Mm-hmm.
on, and it's utilizing a lot of different mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
One of the mechanisms is let's deprive people of their dignity and of their. And now look at folks, there's a psychological aspect to this, a very major one too. And the thing that people have to understand is that slight tweaks to the way that you treat people, especially when they are in distress, can have an unbelievable effect across the spectrum of people. Okay. So in this case, let's rob them of something as simple as their dignity, right? Let's make them
Right.
sign a contract. Let's make them sign their rights away. Let's
Well, I
start
mean,
there.
what is one of the major side effects of demoralizing a population? You get increases. You get a massive increase in depression.
Right.
People feeling isolated and with basically they feel like they have nothing left to value in their lives. You've literally demoralized the population to the point to where people feel worthless and that they don't feel like they have anything to live for, and that's an extremely powerful thing,
Yep.
and and
For my wife, for veterans, homeless, um,
I just think the
just
population in
surviving
general.
each day
Yeah,
is hard because they
right.
don't get the amount of medicine that they need because they are victims of the war on drugs. It's
And
terrible.
even beyond that, I mean, just the economic strife that people are feeling.
Yep.
The
Oh yeah.
and then
Add that.
yeah, you add that, and then you stack on to the fact that people have to walk on eggshells and think about everything that they do and say
That's right.
nowadays. Um, you're constantly in this feeling. Everybody now is in a constant state of anxiety and stress,
Right.
and just that by itself, anxiety and stress, takes a toll on your health.
Does it
You
not?
know,
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up. I am unbelievably glad you brought that up because that ties us back to the Rat Park experiments. And this is a very interesting experiment. I
right?
talked about it briefly last week, but to put it quite just to kind of recap it, you have rats, and inside their cage, they had like cocaine water, they had opium water, and they had water. And in just the empty cage, the rats always gravitated to one of the two waters, and when the drug laced waters, and when they just drank and drank and drank, and then they died. Okay, and then they put them into Rat Park, and Rat Park was a place where they had mates and they could have sex all day and they could ride the roller coaster, the rat roller coaster and the rat wheel, and they had rat drift tracks, and they had good food, they had booze. No, they didn't have booze, but they had water. They did have booze. Well, they had their same 3, and then they had water. And what did they find? They found that the mice, when satisfied, when they were not deprived of their needs, they went to the water. Holy crap. They didn't want the drug. They didn't need it because they didn't have the pain. Their hole wasn't there. Yeah. So this is what we're dealing with, right? They're doing exactly what they shouldn't be doing. And the problem is they know it. That's the worst part, is that they know what they're doing. And they're being sold on it, these schleps. By the way, and this is no insult to any cops that are listening to the show, but I got to say, the intelligence, when they do their little test to get in, right? It's not to see, are you the most talented of these people? Are you the most adept mentally? Are you No. They want people of a psychological profile that will do what they are told when they are told to do it. They want automatons. That's what they want. They want people that will follow a command, no matter how dumb it is, no matter how crazy and inhumane and unlawful it is. If I tell you to do it, you're going to do it. Mungo says, oh, okay, dog, okay, boss. That's what they want. So they give you the text.
Let me also point out to your whole, rat park experiment thing. What effect do you think locking down an entire population for almost 2 years had on everybody when you isolate everyone in their houses and prevent them from going out and engaging in society like we're supposed to? You think that might have had a little bit of an effect on
your lifestyle? If that's not the way you're used to doing things, it is horrifically harmful.
Look at the effect that it had on children, right? Who need that social interaction with other children and whatnot. And that's why even children who are homeschooled, parents know that they need to go and have that social interaction. So even homeschooled kids will get together with other homeschooled kids in order to have that social interaction. And so
also, and let's just put it here too, addiction, overdoses, those all spike because of that.
Right. Yeah.
Right? You don't have that social interaction.
It's another compounding factor that.
Well, and then here's another compounding factor. Let's take away people's ability to get palliative care. Let's take it away from them to be able to go to a doctor and get their prescription filled. Now what do? Oh, I can go to the street, right? Which a lot of people are forced to do because they have no other way to get relief. So they go to the street. Some people refuse, like my wife, refuse to do that because of what that has. And by the way, my wife just said, I would rather die than get street drugs. But she doesn't have that option. Now, if she was a dog, she would have that option. If she was a cat, she would have that option. But as a human being in the United States, she doesn't have that option.
What's crazy?
You're not going to treat my pain? Let me die with dignity. Nope. You can't. You must suffer. You must suffer for the good of everybody.
What's crazy is that ever since the DEA started intervening in the whole doctor-patient relationship and shutting all of this down and preventing people from getting the medicine that
Yeah.
they need. You've seen a massive increase of senior citizens
Yes.
going and buying street drugs.
That's right.
You know, grandma going out and buying heroin.
And oh,
just
by
so
the
she
way,
can-
they're all laced with fentanyl, and you're all going to die.
Right. I mean,
Right?
how insane is that? You know, to
Last week we brought up the federal poisoning program and how
right.
they poisoned the alcohol during Prohibition of the 20s to scare people of drinking bootleg alcohol. And they killed thousands upon thousands of Americans. What is the difference between what they did in the 20s and what they're doing now with allowing the fentanyl to come across an open border and into this country? Knowing
There is
full
no
well
difference. Yeah, there is no difference, man.
they know.
It's-
And what do they call it? Acceptable losses. Why? Because those people deserve to die. Why? Because they're doing bad things. Why? Because they're in pain. They're suffering. So how is that illegal? Look that's why Angela and I are starting Cynic. Suffering is not a crime, right? It's not a crime. It's not a crime to suffer. You need to be helped. And sometimes that requires things like painkillers. Unfortunately, back in the day, you used to be able to get laudanum at the drugstore.
Right.
You know, you could do that. You can't do that now. There used to be opium dens. Now there's not. You know, it's terrible. And they're shutting everybody down. They're shutting pharmacies down. They told my wife, get this, the last time we tried to get her prescriptions filled, the pharmacist said that he would not fill her controlled medications unless she was filling her primary care medications with them to offset the ratio so that the DEA wasn't up this guy's ass. And we were like, what? What the kind of racket is this? Now, and by the way, it's like, dude, I told him, we're in Massachusetts. My primary care is in Massachusetts. We don't go to Virginia for that. So now I have to move all of my doctors down to Virginia, even though I don't live up there, just so I could fill at his pharmacy. And the other thing is this. There's nothing wrong with me. And the only thing wrong with her is the condition she has with her pelvis. So now she has to go and ask the doctor for prescriptions she doesn't need to fill there just to offset the ratio. So now it's like Big Pharma's involved, kind of somehow, some way. It has to be, because now you're forcing me to buy more crap I don't need. What is going on? It's unbelievable, dude. It's like we're funding our own extinction. You know? She has only 2 controlled. That's it. Just 2. Just 2. And they want us to fill like 10 prescriptions there. It's crazy. What?
It's a racket, man.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Smedley Butler wrote it best. War is a racket. Well, pharma's a racket too. Pain is a racket. It's unbelievable. It should never be this way. It should never be. In the 21st century, we should not be dealing with this stuff. I mean, this is like severe, serious crimes against humanity. It goes across all borders. It's unbelievable. And how many people, I would love to know each year, true numbers, and I know we'll never get it, of people that needed help and couldn't get it, and they decided to blow their brains out. You know? Or their heart gave out. Or organ failure. Or the many other ailments that come about because of pain and being in constant pain.
And going back to what I was saying about stress and anxiety and whatnot, you know, I mean, how many people are having stress heart attacks? you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just killing over because their body just can't take it no more, and they just give it up, and it's you'll never get the actual number, because it's crazy, man. And a lot of this also has to go to like the root cause of pain. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because pain can manifest itself in many different forms. It's not just physical pain; it can be psychological. It can be a wide variety of things. But what is the root cause of what is making people
Yeah, it's a
so
very, very good question.
demoralized and unhappy in this country? And
Very good question.
and I think a lot of it has to do with economics, people not having to just live paycheck to paycheck and constantly just, worry about being able to survive day to day, and the
Yeah.
stresses that come with that,
Angie
going
has
back to,
and still to this day has fevers. They're called stress fevers
right.
because she's under so much pain and so much stress constantly that her body cannot regulate temperature. And you know what the doc said? Oh well, it is what it is. It's a reaction of pain. We can't do anything about it.
Right. I've
Like,
had
are
to
you
go through
effing kidding
I've
me,
had to
you
go through the same
asshole?
thing.
Yeah, it's like crazy, man. So that's the problem, and it's systemic, and it's not going to change unless enough people become pissed off enough. Now, that's the whole idea. Is we want to start like a class action lawsuit for anybody that signed a pain contract or anything else because it's baloney, man. Not to mention the fact that doctor-patient relationship is sacred. And this is only one mechanism of many right now that they have to kill off as many people as they can and as fast a time as they can without having any attention drawn. The other way they're doing it is with housing. Now, there's plenty of housing out there, but that's not the problem. The problem is no one can afford it. Now, why is that? Well, if you take a look, these bagillionaires and zillionaires are, in fact, going and buying property cross borders. So you have China going into Canada, swooping up all the property, coming into the United States, buying up chunks of farmland and property. You got Bill Gates buying as much of the big agra as you possibly can. All of these people, these single individuals, or even retirement funds, or big organizations like Blackstone and entities like that just scooped up all of the suburban housing and then renting them at astronomical sums that are making people absolutely, I mean, just at their wits' end. Oh, and why? It's housing. It should not be like that.
You think a lot of that is probably part of the whole, was it Agenda 21, actually Agenda 20, was it 35 sort of thing, where they want to force people into concentrated
Yeah.
population centers and have the inability to buy property or anything kind of outside of that. And
I wouldn't be surprised if it took a more private type of appearance in that it starts with the companies, in that it becomes part of the compensation package. Like if you get hired by the uh, Acme Widget Company, we're going to give you a trailer that's on the back 40 out there, and it's a 2 bedroom, 1 bath trailer, depending on your family size, you know, and you can live there, and we're going to give you $18 an hour but you can live there. You don't have to pay utilities, nothing else. $18 an hour is yours.
Right, and look at what China does. They have all their workers live
Same thing,
on
right?
site. Yeah, they
Yep.
live on site, just outside of the factory. They have their house or their little. Probably that's not what I wouldn't even
That's not for
consider it a
everybody.
house, but yeah,
Right.
their little
That's not for
apartment or whatever.
everybody. That's just for the worker bees. Now, the worker bees, if that's the route you choose to take, well, then that's great. And so you do. Now, there's other people that don't do that, and they live outside of that. But they're a lot fewer than they were before because now you've drawn everybody in. And then eventually it gets even less and less and less. And I'm telling you, what we're seeing now is exactly all of the things that they perfected during World War I, World War II, and then post World War II. They have implemented in a soft form and done so with amazing, amazing results. If you look at the first world's birth rates right now, all of them, every single one is below 2.0. Every single one cannot sustain their population. The only reason why the United States does is because of immigration. That's it. That's why the Democrats and others that push for open borders, which, by the way, wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't so many strings attached to aid, to Social Security, to benefits that they don't pay for, blah, blah, blah. Now, if all that wasn't there, a la like pre the Act of 1871, then it wouldn't be anything because they'd just be showing up, just like the Irish, just like the Chinese, just like many people before them. They would just show up. There was no citizenship. We were just here.
The incentive has changed. It's not like it was back in the 1800s. Whenever, when immigrants came here and actually helped build the country.
That's right.
That's not what's happening now. You know,
No.
and I think people need to understand that. You know, it's not like we're anti-immigrant. I'm not anti-immigrant. You know, it's the reasons they're coming has changed, and
sometimes some people are coming strictly because it's better than where they were, which is why many people came to the United States.
But also back then, they understood what America stood for as well, and they also had to they understood our Constitution, and they had to at least sort of learn what this country was founded on and the principles of this country, where now they come across. Do you think how many of these people flooding across the borders have any concept of the American Constitution or even understand what this country was founded upon? All they know is America, free stuff. And that's basically it, you know. So yeah, the entire incentive is completely different, and that's the problem.
But Maria in the chat room is right. Hell, Americans don't know the Constitution. Absolutely right.
Right. We our own citizens don't even understand.
Well, that's a problem. But at the same time, it is not the responsibility of government for you to know what your rights are.
Right.
It's your responsibility to know what your rights are. So, it at its core is a failure of personal responsibility that is not being handed down, that's not being passed on, and it's not the role of government. The government, if you want to really get down and dirty, is there to protect your rights. if you will. That was the intent of the
Right.
founding fathers, and to provide stability in a way, because when you trade with other countries, you need basic structures set up in order to handle that type of stuff, like Department of Treasury, Department of State, things like that, right? It was never, ever meant to get out of hand and out of control like this. And that's something that Washington and Jefferson and Adams wrote about a lot, was the more government comes to the rescue in areas of your life, the more they exert control.
Like I
And
said,
it was trying to limit that reach.
the worst 9 words you want to hear. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes. Very, very difficult. But I will tell you this, there's a lot of suffering going on out in the world. And anybody in America, as bad as you might have it, are very fortunate to be living at this time in this place because if you look at life in most of the other areas of the world, you'll find that it's not, the quality of life is not what you would think it would be. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go around the world myself and see it.
Right.
That's not to say that we have it better than anybody. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, relative to human history and the suffering, the starvation that happens now, has happened in the past, all the human suffering, especially if you're a white individual in the last 100 years in the United States, man, you've had it good. And I don't say that outside of just the stark truth. And I don't also say it because of any sort of agenda. I only say it because my wife and I have suffered severe discrimination just because of her ailments. And we know firsthand how that discrimination can cut you to the core. And I mean, it is some of the most horrific, inhumane crap I have ever been subjected to. And I've been in the pits of hell in this world. And that's what's so unbelievable, is that here I am over in Djibouti, and I'm spreading freedom and democracy throughout. I'm protecting our rights. Yeah. And then I come home and I see my wife subjected to this kind of crap. And then the fallout or the blowback from that, and how it affects my life and my kids' lives. And then how my uh, in-laws are able to take advantage of that and then use it to their advantage. Like the villains in a Scooby-Doo episode. A terrible one.
They were able to use the state as their henchmen.
Because it's available to them, and because
Right.
if you think about it, the government has one tool in their toolbox, and it's a hammer. And they know no other way. The only difference is we were able to, and thank God, at least in a portion of this, we were able to get or acquire somebody that was objective and empathetic and has been through the type of discrimination we've been through. And it was divine, quite frankly. There's no other way to put it. And that's why, as you know, I go to court next Tuesday. I don't fear any of that stuff, because not only did I not do anything wrong, but I'm not in control here. And I've seen that from the very start. So I'm just along for the ride. And wherever that ride takes me, I go. I will say that it has certainly made me more aware of the type of discrimination and the type of control they're trying to extract. But also, there is ways that you can work around the system. And oftentimes, like I say, the workaround's always worse than if you just let things go as it is. Well, now you have a type of technology. Of course, you've heard artificial intelligence said ad nauseum in the news lately. You've probably heard it a million times. But now they have the robot lawyer, right? And it's an app. I actually downloaded the damn thing. It's pretty cool. You got to pay for it, but it will defend you in court. It'll tell you what to say when to say it, right? Because we all have the ability to represent ourselves. And this is just the most amazing thing. This is Study Finds. And Study Finds is a great place to, it's an aggregate of all these peer-reviewed studies and things like that. Very, very interesting. Check it out. It says, a smartphone app that can tell a defendant what to say in court using AI has been used for the first time, and it's a lot cheaper than a real lawyer. It's called Do Not Pay. And says AI has been used for the first time during a trial and can be used anywhere in the world. The neural network will listen to all speeches from witnesses, lawyers, and the judge. The program tells the defendant exactly what to say through an earpiece, urging them to stick to only those words. In this case, legal history is being made over a speeding ticket. That's probably a good way to beta test it. You know, you don't want to do it over like murder or anything like that, right?
Right.
So the breakthrough may set a precedent, it says, for more serious cases in the future. Yeah, sure. Identities and locations are being kept confidential by Do Not Pay. It would be illegal to use the technology in most countries, but British-born founder Joshua Broder has successfully argued that the app classifies as a hearing aid.
Oh.
He says, quote, it's a technology within the rules, but I don't think it's in the spirit of the rules, the entrepreneur said, according to the statement from SWNS. The landmark test case is taking place in February 2023, so next month. The firm has agreed to pay any penalties imposed for using the app. Do Not Pay is also offering $1 million to anyone with any upcoming case at the U.S. Supreme Court if they'll do the same thing. Okay, the computer brain has already been used to talk directly to customer service staff at a bank with a synthesized voice. Hey, you know, you just start working at a bank first. Yeah, the program successfully reversed several bank fees on its own. Okay. It's the most mind-blowing thing I've ever done. It is only $16 that we got reversed, but that is the perfect job for AI, by cracky. Who has time to waste on hold for $16? So think about that. Now, yes, my wife wanted me just to make I swear to God, sometimes I'll tell you what, but you got to listen, right? Gut. I am not using the artificial intelligence for my case. I have an actual lawyer. Full disclosure. Yes, so we don't get it. Did I get everything? Okay, I got everything. There we go. So he says we are trying to minimize our legal liability, and it's not good if it actually twists facts and is too manipulative. Yeah, I'd say so too. If it's too manipulative, probably not. However, isn't that interesting? Now, I've always viewed the war on drugs and everything else, again, one of the tools in the eugenics toolbox, but also very, very nice fuel for things like the lawyer lobby, for law enforcement. It allows for a lot of federal aid, a lot of federal funding. It employs, I don't know, Scotty, what would you say? Millions of people? I would have to say,
probably.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that depend on that kind of whole ecosystem that's been created. Well, what would you do? See, because that's the other fear too, is that, okay, so we get rid of it. Then what do we do with all these people? I say we just don't worry about it. Since you wanted to kill off all those other people anyway, what do you say? It's a wash.
Hey, wait till the Wait till the prosecutors and the government decide that they're going to start using AI to fight back against
That's right. Hold on. I think my wife has an idea as to how to solve the whole unemployment crisis. And this is what happens when we get on a roll. Now, mind you, first off, I said, no, when we start the show, okay, I'm going to try just minimal kind of stuff, right? But no, I'm just going to hand them. As a matter of fact, I think that's a good idea. So, first of all, what you would do is you would cross train people over to things like education and awareness and prevention and stuff, right? Or you could, send them to Kanadistan to be doctors. Oh, the Kanadistan doctors will do it. That's right. See, up in Kanadistan, they actually have the doctor-assisted suicide. So, dying with dignity, Kanadistan. I like it. Problem is, most of the people that are in that situation don't have a pot to piss in and can't do it. And then what do? You know? But you have like a morning after pill. Think about that for a second. Just think about that. Morning after pill, which, by the way, it's up to you. I don't give a crap. But you won't allow people with pain to die with dignity if you're not going to treat them. You don't give them that way out. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Lisa Marie Presley died. 54. You had this airman this week die on his way to class, 21. He was in the Air Force Academy. Just dropped dead.
There also was some rising MMA star. She died.
Dropped dead.
Yeah, dropped dead.
Yeah. Yeah, Hamlin, Buffalo Bills, right?
Luckily he survived, but
he survived. And I know they're going to make conspiracy theorists, whatever. Don't care. Just use your eyes, use your ears, and allow yourself to see things with a filter that filters out everything that you hear on the TV, all that commentary. Just stop.
Yeah. And irregardless of what you believe the cause is, there's something going on.
Something's going on.
Something is going on.
That's all you have to agree on right now. And he did, right, Maria? In this case, he did get hit in the chest with a helmet. But there have been a lot of deaths. And here's the reason why we know this. You have group life insurance, right? So I work in industry, in aerospace. And every employer has somebody that has group life insurance that you buy and your associates buy into, that provide your life insurance should something happen and you die while you're employed there. Typically covers people between the ages of 18 and 64. And during that time, or during the last 2 years, since 2020, so almost 3 years now, they've seen a 40% increase in deaths. People between 18 and 64, 40%. They said that a 10% increase would be a 1 in 200 year event. And we're seeing 40%, to the point where these group life insurance companies are going to go insolvent because of the draw on the resources. They weren't expecting that. Now all of a sudden everybody's dying. So there has to be that question. Why? So yeah, Buffalo Bills guy gets hit in the chest. Absolutely. I've seen it before. You see it a lot in martial arts when you get hit in the solar plexus. Happens a lot.
That's what happened to Jerry the King Lawler.
That's right. Remember that? I remember that.
Right. Yeah. Right. He immediately he posted on Twitter. He said, "Hey, I know from personal experience about this." So yeah.
So you got that.
Mm-hmm.
You got COVID. You got long COVID.
Yep.
You got the vaccine. I don't want to call it that. let's call it the Cas9, CRISPR-Cas9 kit,
Yep.
because they had to redefine what that word was
Mhm.
just to, put it out there like that.
We'll just call it the DNA scrambler.
The DNA scrambler. I like it. Kind of reminds me of the scrambler at the carnival.
Right.
Okay. You have a lot of things in play here. You got the stress.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have food shortages, right? We have fuel shortages. We have shortages in general, ones that we shouldn't have. You have areas of the labor market where we've lost so much talent so fast. This is the one that really hits home to me. People don't realize that it only takes a generation to really F up the population. Why? Because you lose very valuable sectors of the economy when you do, and you can't recover it fast enough. So when you lose it, it's very hard to recover. We're seeing it now, especially in trades. The trades have gotten absolutely decimated through retirement of the baby boomers, but the push for 4-year degrees because of the student loan malarkey that's gone on for so long and made it so easy for people to obtain a 4-year degree and get bamboozled in the process that they've watered down the value of the 4-year degree. And then on the flip side, there are no people with trades because they all try to go 4-year degree to do your carpentry, electrical, your mechanical, all of that stuff. There is an absolute there's none. It's hard. And the ones that are there are few and far between. The other ones are too green. They haven't gotten enough experience under their belt yet. So in one generation, we've seen just an absolute decimation. And it's not just the United States, it's global. It's a global type of thing. And it's been driven by these Sanger, eugenics, Planned Parenthood. All of these things have culminated into a crisis that we're seeing now. It's terrible, Scotty, if you think about it. And quite frankly, I don't know how you can recover it without some pretty serious reforms.
Right. Speaking of globalism, I think old Bilderberg is coming up here pretty soon.
It is, or Davos, I think too, right?
World Economic Forum is supposed to be meeting here pretty soon, and then you got Bilderberg going on, and I heard that they're supposed to have something like 5,000 Swiss troops guarding Bilderberg. Is
that it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my.
So,
that is absolutely what I'm so glad. That makes me feel so good that the brain trust of humanity is safe. Do you not feel that way? I hope so.
And apparently, from what I've heard, I'll have to look into it. The tyrant of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, she's going to be over at Bilderberg. So I found that pretty interesting. So yeah, I heard that she is related to some Rothschilds or Rockefellers or something like that.
How could that be?
You know, kind of some lineage, maybe through a cousin or something like that. But you know,
I don't have a input. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to get it, Scotty. I'm trying to get it.
You don't got a tinfoil hat, but you got like a.
I'm not feeling the Gretchen Whitmer Rothschild connection yet, but I'll tune in.
Well, we'll have to look into it and see. But you know, obviously,
it wouldn't surprise me. I'll put it that way.
You don't just get an invite to Bilderberg unless there's something to it. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, she survived some pretty interesting trials and tribulations up in the great state of Michigan, and she was one of the more authoritarian type of pushers of the Great World Economic Forum's plan. So I could definitely see why she would get an invite. Yeah, quite frankly, only because she was so adamant to keep pushing that isolation, to keep
Yeah, I'm sure they
schools
were like,
closed.
"Hey, we really like what you're doing up there. So,
Oh yeah, that is
you wanna
now
you wanna
that
you want a
that is
seat at
how
the
you do
table?"
it, there, lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just see Klaus saying that now. Yes, this is how we do it. Yep.
Exactly.
Now, interestingly enough, depression, by the way, um, has soared as a result of all this isolation, like you said, which also contributes to suicide. Metro says depression is not caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. Interestingly enough, and it calls into questions what exactly antidepressants do,
Hmm.
which then calls into question what is the purpose. And if you look at, there's a lot of people on them. I even had a bout on them. I can tell you this: for those that have no exposure to them, getting off them is excruciating. It was unlike anything I have ever felt in my life. I literally, it took me 6 months to wean down. I tried to go cold turkey off them. Oh, that was bad. Literally, it felt like my brain was 6 feet levitating above my head. I literally felt like it was an out of body experience, although I was conscious and seeing everything. It was like, it was the weirdest sensation I can even begin to tell you. And that was just mine. I can't imagine what people go through. And um, there is so many people on these things. Researchers saying, according to this, their findings are important as studies show that as many as 85 to 90% of the public believes that depression is caused by low serotonin and chemical imbalance. And that's what you're told when you go to the doctor, by the way. Most antidepressants are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which, by the way, are very commonly found in most of the mass bang bang events.
Right.
Yes. And were
Right.
originally said to help correct that abnormally low serotonin level. So, Joanna Moncrief, the lead author, a professor of psychology at UCL, is a consultant psychiatrist at the Northeast London Foundation Trust, says it's difficult to prove a negative, but I think we can safely say that after a vast amount of research conducted over several decades, there's no convincing evidence that depression is caused by serotonin abnormalities, particularly by lower level or reduced activity of serotonin. So, the popularity of the chemical imbalance theory of depression has coincided with a huge increase in the use of antidepressants, right? Because if that's what they're told, well, then they're going to give people the solution. They're going to treat the symptom. That's what doctors are trained to do. Prescriptions for antidepressants have risen dramatically since the 1990s, with 1 in 6 adults in England and 2% of teenagers now prescribed an antidepressant in any given year. And here in the United States, it's much higher. Many people take antidepressants because they have been led to believe their depression has a biochemical cause. But this new, and let me tell you something, folks, that may be the case. The problem is they got the wrong one. They just don't know what it is. It could be a chemical imbalance. I doubt it. I think Rat Park kind of showed that.
Right.
Not to say that's 100% of the time. See, and this is the problem with medicine. Medicine loves to go down the road of vanilla. They love vanilla. They love that, okay, well, the 10,000 humans did this, so that means all of humanity has to be that way.
Well,
No.
yeah, it's another example of cookie cutter solution.
Yes, and you always have outliers, and that's
Right.
the issue. Root cause solution, and finding the end game, the cure, if you will, is not part of the game in medicine because A, it's not profitable. B, they've really dumbed down doctors now to the point where they only know how to treat the symptom. My wife has a problem that with today's technology, in my humble opinion, should be easily solved to the point where I could do it if she was an airplane I could do it with a 3D printer in my facility and some tools. But she's not. She's a human being. So can't do it that way. However, I have to believe that doctors are hip on this technology. I would hope so. And that there would be some sort of movement. So, right? So then I look into a center of excellence very close by to us, Brigham Women's Hospital. And I look up pelvic pain. And I find out that CPP, chronic pelvic pain, is a major problem within women, much more common than I was ever aware. And they only have a 10%, they say, understanding of that. Yeah. Because why? There's not enough money in it. Simply put, there's not enough money in it. Now, if it was cancer, oh, have some. You know, if they are these funded diseases, great. Chronic pelvic pain, not so much. You know, there are so many people. I have to wonder how much productivity is sapped out of industry because of pain. And I have to think it's quite substantial, Scotty. You know?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can barely wake up in the morning and function, you know.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to say this too. I'm sorry. No baloney Maloney. There you go. Write the symptoms. He's got that. And then Maria Wilson, doctors have become political. They have to be almost because of the atmosphere and the environment that they're in. They have to protect their selves at this point, and that's the problem. They've instilled so much fear that my wife has now become a liability anywhere she goes, and she can't get treated. So she has to slowly die in a body that's broken, which is terrible. And to have to see that is even worse. And you would think, again, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, that you wouldn't have this type of suffering and you wouldn't have this type of inhumane treatment. But then I look at, I look at the way African Americans were treated. I look at the way all the discrimination that's happened, whether you're for whatever reason, you're a woman. Look at women in the workforce. Same thing. Terrible, awful discrimination. Look at the salary disparity between women and men. Still exists today. It's terrible. I mean, and you look back, it doesn't matter. There's discrimination everywhere. I cannot, for the life of me, understand why we would do that kind of stuff to the most vulnerable of our population. It just makes me absolutely sick, Scotty. Any final thoughts, my friend?
No, I think you've.
Boy, look at you. Yeah, he's like, well, yeah, I think you said it all. I said.
You have. You've summed it up quite well, and
yeah.
I think this is just something that has played out all throughout history. It's always the most vulnerable that suffer, and that are, it's the quote unquote low hanging fruit that always has to,
you're right.
And I also think, this is part of, like you said, the whole eugenics thing.
It is, man. You can't help but see it and
right.
say, Luke said it best, right? About these days. And think about this for a second. And this isn't, one of those you can apply it to the whole, anytime, any place. But he said in chapter 21, verse 25 to 27, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. So you wonder, we're kind of seeing all that stuff. People are starting to drop dead. And, you've got a lot of people looking at things like pole reversals, of even those that are searching for Nibiru, right? Doesn't matter. They know inside as humans that something's coming. A lot of people don't understand it or know it, but they know it. And I wonder how it's all going to play out. But I can see why, in a lot of ways, they could be saying, well, we're doing this for a humane thing. We don't want them to have to live through this. I don't know. It just seems like there's always a twist. There's always a twist. But anyway, folks, we're out of time. And it was great to be with you tonight. We'll be with you next week. Thank you very much for hanging out with us live. Anybody watching this, you can always email me, info@thefreedomlink.net. That's info@thefreedomlink.net. Scotty, too. Just hit us up. Have a great night. Bill, it's all yours, buddy. Take care.